apparently we are live. Going live. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream. So welcome back to the channel. If you're coming on replay and checking us out there, get your comments down below. I'll try my best to answer them and not be too jerky, but I got lots of reasons to be jerky right now. Wow, this might be the slowest March on record for number of sales. We could be there. We could be there very, very, very quickly. The stats are going to come out here next week, and we're going to find out if indeed this spring, this March, for sales in the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board area is the slowest on record, possibly even slower than the pandemic year. Remember that year was actually 12 days of gangbuster real estate. And then on March 12th, when the kind of lockdown happened, that's when things changed. And there was virtually no sales at that point going forward. But that was a totally different market. The end of 2019 heated up just like the end of last year heated up. But then you went in for January and February, and the market was on fire at that point. And then we had the major shutdown and the fear. The fear is very much the same of what's going on right now for us. The fear is definitely an issue right now. So that's what we're seeing out there. That's what we're seeing is just an absolute ton of fear. And I think that's what's holding people back. So I don't know, maybe it's justified. Maybe it's not justified. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think that people should just be fearful right now because of all this stuff that's happening. We got everybody down south that's a problem. We got our own election going on. But at this point, I mean, buyers are definitely holding off. They're absolutely holding off. But it's a very strange segment in the market because it is a segmentation. It's a complete segmentation of the marketplace right now. What we're seeing is people that don't pay attention to the news. So the people that don't watch the CBC, that don't watch CNN, that don't watch Fox News, that don't watch CTV and Global, those people seem to be acting in the marketplace and just going on with their life. And at this point in time, everybody else is paralyzed. Here's why the market can be so affected by that, though. If you have a young first-time buyer, which, by the way, is most of our buyers right now, most of our buyers this year that we've put together have been young first-time buyers that don't know any better. They don't know that they should be apparently worried about all this stuff that's going on. So in that respect, I just worry that there's too many people that are worried for no reason. There's absolutely no reason to be worried. By a lot of people's measures, I guess you would call it. There's no reason for a lot of folks to think that they need to sit there and be terrified. They are terrified, I guess. But it's all the older folks, and the older folks own the real estate. So generally speaking, the older folks are the ones that are not transacting, which is crazy to think about because we have so many listings on the marketplace. We have so many listings on the market. We are now, well, hey, let me pop you in to see if I can find out. So many listings on the market. Where we are at now. So this is how slow we are. We are slower right now than February. So February, 19 working days. We had slower 915 sales. We're basically on par with that. March is always busier, always busier. 915 than February. Say maybe, for instance, 2020. Look at last year. Last year was not a gangbuster year. There was an extra, basically 421 sales. Look at last year. Last year was not a gangbuster year. An extra third of sales. basically 400. But now let's see how many active listings we have on the marketplace. Third of sales. Basically 400. But now let's see how many active listings we have on the market. This is skyrocketing, this number. 8,300. Let's see how many 78 active listings on the marketplace. That's North Delta, Surrey, White Rock, Langley, Abbotsford, and Mission. A healthy market active listings on the marketplace. That's is 67,000, so 6,500. Let's call it. So we're sitting at a very, very, very high amount of listings on the market. Is 67, and they're just sitting there. And I know a lot of agents are saying things like, "Well, they're priced right and they're not getting any showings." What does that mean? It means they're not priced right. It means the buyers in the marketplace right now are saying no. Priced right and they're not getting any showings. What does that mean? It means they're not priced. Back to this here. So if that's happening, and you want to sell, it's simple. You need to lower your price. Very simple. But sellers aren't there yet. Sellers aren't in a spot where they're hurting because real estate prices are sticky because sellers, generally speaking, don't need to sell at the rate of which buyers wish they need to get rid of the property. They usually don't need to sell. I have certain clients that I've spoken to over the last 6 months that are like bleeding, but they can afford to bleed. So they can afford to hold on to that for whatever period of time it is. I don't know. They're some of them are negative cash flowing only $400 or $500 a month, and they're happy with that. And other ones are very unhappy and bleeding a lot more than that. But they're holding on to the properties rather than letting them go, even rather than reducing their price. Here, I'll give you an example. The amount of people that I have heard, and some of them are clients and some of them are not clients. Most of them are not clients that have said to me this crazy statement that all sellers have to say in order to, I don't know, I guess it's just a hurdle that you need to get over in your mind. Well, I'm not going to lower my price, but just bring me an offer. Okay, there's two things that happen there. The first thing is, if your price is that high, nobody wants to lowball you. Really. Nobody wants to come in and offend you. They want to see the right price properties. They want to offer on what they think is a good property for the good value. And not everybody going around, offering 20% under ask. It's just not going to happen. A real lowball's 10% under ask, and most people are too embarrassed to do that. So they just won't come in the door. Simple as that. They just won't come in the door. And then if you do get somebody that's going to lowball you, they're going to lowball you with such a number that you're not interested at all. And then you get offended and you turn away that offer. So I wish that was the case, that lowballs actually worked, and often they don't, just the psychology of people. Say, for instance, you had $1 million property, or what you perceive to be $1 million property on the market, and your agent recommended that it's worth $800,000, which is a very real scenario right now in a lot of townhouses across the market that did sell for $1 million a few years ago, and now they're on for 800. Very real. There's also, what are we going to say? 350 other places on the market that are like yours. Okay, that might be an exaggeration. Let's say there's 150 other units on the market like yours. If you're now a buyer and there's 150 units to pick from, you're not going to go showing the highest priced ones and then offer on them, hoping to get them for what there's 10 more listed for already. So you're going to go offer on those 10 more that are listed at $799. You're not going to go offer on the $999 one. That's the reality of the marketplace. So until sellers come around with their pricing, this is where we're going to sit for a while. Uncertainty, all that stuff. But at the moment, there's even another problem, and that is the amount of people that are not willing or able, usually I think willing is probably the right term, but not willing to get their home to a show quality. You are selling a dream. And in this market, if you have, again, put yourself in the buyer's perspective. If you're looking at 100 possible townhomes, how many are you going to go into? You might go into 20 if you're seeing a lot of homes, but you're going to narrow it down to say 10 that you're actually going to physically go into. And then you're going to pick one of those 10 to offer on. Maybe a deal comes together, maybe it doesn't. But you're not going to probably offer on the one that has the stinky carpets and the dinged up walls. And you're definitely not going to offer a higher price for that one either. And this is the situation we're in. So we're seeing a lot of this. The clients, however, that we have that are putting in the extra work are getting great results, right? I went into multiple offers just yesterday. Tons of work went into the property in advance of listing. We hit the market. We had 4 offers in the first 48 hours. It's doable. We are, and by the way, priced correctly and not intentionally underpriced or anything like that. Priced to get action in order to not be on the market for a long time, but not priced in a way where we were going to reject offers should they have not come. So maybe it'll come together, maybe it won't. Not that many people watching, only 17 that I see at the moment. I will get to some questions, so please type them in. But I just want to talk about the market. So let me recap real quick. We have terrified baby boomers that are not moving, that are seized up. They're not buying the downsizing type of property. That's not moving a lot of the detached homes. We have a lot of investors that would like to get out, but they can't get out because they bought at the peak because they weren't real investors and they're only selling within 2 or 3 years. And the buyers right now are first-time buyers. So I think that is a fantastic thing. My audio has an echo. Uh-oh. I hope not. I have no idea why my audio would have an echo. No idea why my audio would have an echo. What's your forecast on Fraser Valley real estate? Let me check my audio here for a sec. Detached home for this year. Test, test, test. Tell me if this is better, if I get this going. Probably should have read the comments earlier. Testing, testing. How about now? I think I may have fixed it. Yay! Probably should have read that earlier. Almost know what I'm doing. What is my forecast for Fraser Valley detached homes this year? Do you think we will see lows of 2022 again? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. I love how I'm like 20 minutes in here, 10 minutes in with an echo the whole time. That's going to be awesome for replay. Let's take a look here. Okay. So this is the entire Fraser Valley board area. The top one is detached. Prices are going up. Look at that. People don't like to hear it. Prices are going up, but just barely. 2022 lows, 23 lows. Actually, January 2023 was the low. So March 2022, detached peaked out across the whole Fraser Valley at 1.76. It then bottomed at 1.345, and then it has basically gone up and bounced around the almost 1.5 range for the last 2 years. We bottomed out again this last December at 1.48, and we are trending up. How is it possible? Do I still need to wear these? How is it possible that we could have lower sales than possibly at any point in time in the last 20 years and have prices going up? It's what I alluded to earlier. Junk. There's a lot of people trying to sell junk. It's impossible to sell tenanted properties. You might have all these properties on the market right now, but they're tenanted. You can barely get the tenants out if you wanted to. It shows like crap. And nobody wants to buy those properties. Tenanted properties are basically unsaleable in this marketplace unless it's a future investor, and there are very few of those right now. So they aren't selling, and they're just stacking up. So the good stuff is selling for more. I personally was out in Langley looking at homes. Maybe I'm going to do an upsize myself. Maybe. And let me tell you, large properties in Langley and South Surrey, very busy market. Still quite busy. Maybe not the prices they want to get, but open houses, everybody's there. As opposed to, say, the condos, townhouse market right now in Surrey. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. So, do I think that we're going to see prices bottom again? I really don't. I think we're going to see a lot of this flat for a while. I would actually quite like to see this flat for a while. Let's see how far out we can go here. I love this flat, boring market, even this mild increase. But look at condos from like 2008 where they peaked. They went down. They went from 200 down to like 180, so they lost 10%. And then they basically went like 190 to 180 to, how long did it take? 200. There we go. There's 200 again. 2015 September. So it took from May 08 to 2015. I don't suppose this market will be that much different than that market. It's just, look at these crazy high numbers. You saw this big swing up. Trust me, when this number was compared to the numbers before it looked like a crazy swing up too. But this is much more like kind of the 1981-82 crash, let's call it, than the 08 crash, if you want to call it that. But I just think we're going to see this like very boring. I mean, that being said, it's very boring, but this is 1.53 and this is 1.48. So we have a $50,000 swing, and I'm sitting here going, well, what's the big deal? It's $50,000. And the homeowner's going, holy crap, it's $50,000. So that's, I guess, kind of the big swing. Let's break this out a little bit, though. Let's do something a little different. Let's look at detached, and then let's go Surrey. Let's go Surrey combined. Let's go Langley. All of Langley. And then let's go Abbotsford. Then let's see where we're at. Again, they're all trending up. Nope. I mean, unless this whole tariff thing actually becomes a legit deal, which I don't think it is. You hear Trump talking nicey-nicey about Mark. He called him Mark, Prime Minister, not Governor. See how that goes. Sales, their stats aren't out yet for March, but you're going to see this sales number just absolutely plummet. My internet doesn't seem to be working. Maybe I'm streaming too much here. Come on, internet. Well, let's go back to this until it can kick in. But, yeah, it's the way it's going to go for the next little bit. I think it's going to be slow, and I think buyers are going to miss massive opportunity, but you can't blame them because they're scared for jobs. Are you hearing from folks that are losing their jobs and inquiring about selling? Steve S., which I'm assuming is Steve Saretsky. I also went to school, elementary school, with a Steve S., so I've had a Steve S. in my world for many years now. Was posting on X about that. Number one, I'll never be on X. I'm already too negative. I don't need to be more negative. I have not heard from anyone that has lost their job. I do know people that are fearing of losing their job, or I have heard of other people who know people who have lost their job, and it actually has nothing to do with tariffs. It has everything to do with the cut in government spending in the States. So it has more to do with DOGE than it does tariffs, because it's amazing to find out how many industries are funded by tax dollars rather than funded by themselves. Are any non-rich people buying houses at this point? Absolutely. Everybody that I can think of. Let me just go through my list here. I will look at who's buying right now. I have what I'm going to call a very blue-collar first-time investor that bought. I have a first-time buyer. I have an investor that is buying his first place for him. So he actually bought an investment property first, and now he's buying his first place for him. Another first-time buyer that we're working with. Yeah, that's what it is. It's mostly first-time buyers, believe it or not. The crazy thing that we are seeing right now, I shouldn't say crazy. I do it all the time. What we are seeing right now is because I've bought a book of business from my old partner who's much older than I am, and I have another member of my team who's kind of specializes in 55 plus. We do a lot of estates and we do a lot of people moving to homes. So we're seeing a ton of empty properties. And a lot of the reason these empty properties are not selling is because the people that are moving here that want to move into them, these are stratified, often townhouses and condos. They are new to Canada and they want to put 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 people into these units, as that is the size of their family. Who knows if their family is really their family or not. But the stratas restrict them down to, let's call it 4 people. I think a 2-bedroom in Surrey is supposed to be 4 people. So there's a bunch of people that want to buy these things that can't buy these things. So they're looking for stratas that will allow 6 people in an 800 square foot 2-bedroom. So we're seeing a whole lot of that. So no, it's not rich, folks. I have heard, however, I will say this. This is the first sign of weakness that I've really legitimately thought, like, okay, this is something that's showing weakness. This is more than just news. And I mean clickbait crap news. I have spoken recently to what I would deem to be a large foreclosure lawyer. We do foreclosures all the time. I've done on average 3 foreclosures per year my career, so it's nothing crazy. I'm not getting any more myself. However, that lawyer told me that their firm is the busiest they have ever been with foreclosures, and they do a lot of foreclosures. I'm not seeing it. And if they're busy with foreclosures, that usually means they're probably early in the process. A lot of the time when we're speaking to foreclosure lawyers, what's happening is we're trying to gain access to the property. And if I get a foreclosure file, there's a good chance that property is not even coming to the market for 9 or 10 more months. So there could definitely be that option. But when I'm looking at these foreclosure files, the loans didn't make sense when they were given. Most of them weren't loans that were given in the pandemic, and they don't make any sense. There was people lending money on those things, on those properties that had no business lending at all. For like, you would see a property that was maybe a first mortgage by a reputable lender, and then you'll see a second or a third mortgage. And I mean, your first mortgage is going to be probably somewhere between 80% to 95% of their CMHC value anyway, right? Like, there's not a lot of people looking for a mortgage that they can't get from the bank already at a higher percentage for whatever reason. So these people have lent money for who knows what reason, and they're private lenders, usually private names. And those people are going to be out of luck. Purely anecdotal, Steve's tweet. I talk to a lot of people every day about their housing situations. There are a lot more conversations today about people losing their jobs, unemployed, looking for work. Has anyone else noticed this? No, not yet. I think it's coming. I mean, it's definitely Hudson Bay. I don't know how many Hudson Bay workers were buying houses this month, but they ain't now. So that may be a thing. A conservative win will give boost to sentiment. Maybe. USA will be more favorable to negotiate liberal win. You can imagine the pain that will come. You didn't watch the news today. Was it Striker X? it looks like our boy Trump is in love with our boy Mark, and they're going to put the whole deal together, and that's what they want to try and do. By the way, here's a side note that I never thought I would say. I bought Mark Carney's book because I wanted to know if I should like him or I should hate him. I realize he's a politician, so I got to hate him anyway, but it's very interesting to find out. Like my interpretation so far, and I'm not done the book, is Justin Trudeau read his book and tried to enact the stuff that he talked about, but he wasn't smart enough to enact it. That's kind of the feeling I get right now. So he's really big on all of the same things that Trudeau was about. He's very big on carbon. He's very big on, DEI. He's very big on all of that kind of liberal platform that we've seen. And they don't cover that in the news at all. So interesting. That being said, if the Conservatives get in, you will see probably housing market actually get worse because they likely won't pump in the same amount of money supply into the country. So if you want house prices to go up, you're probably voting Liberal. And that's why I think the boomers have gonna kind of switch to that Liberal mindset. They've got like an enemy down south, and then they also want their value, like their pensions and everything, to continue to go get propped up. And they view Carney as the best option, or the Liberal Party as the best option to keep that fueling going on, which will then prop up house prices likely. So believe it or not, I'm actually considering at the moment, is it a good time for me to buy my next investment property now while the market sucks? And if indeed the Liberals under Carney do get back in 10 years from now, am I looking like a genius all over again? Very possible. I think the Conservatives will restrict a lot of what's going on. They'll restrict immigration, easy for me to say, down to, I guess they would tie it to housing starts, or that's at least what they say they will. They won't flood people in. They're not part of the Century Initiative, if you know what that is. And you will probably not have nearly the housing issues under the Conservatives. If anything, you may have more pain financially under the Conservatives, which may or may not be a bad thing. I know having incumbents is not a good thing. So let's go back to the questions. If you got questions, type them in. Can a buyer negotiate a term for vacant possession of a tenant-occupied home requiring mutual agreement between the seller and the tenant? What risks do the buyer and sellers face in this scenario? Great question. Actually, a well-thought-out question. I appreciate that question so much more than I appreciate how's the market? Is it a good time to buy or sell? Okay, so yes, you could make an offer, I guess, subject to the seller entering into a mutual termination with the tenant. Unfortunately, you don't know if the tenant's going to agree to that or not. Here's a tip. If you're going to buy a tenanted property, I would not complete on that property until at least a day after the tenant is scheduled to be out. That would be my thought. So here's how it goes. If I'm going to move in and occupy, I can now do only 3 months plus 3 days written notice. There's legalese there I won't get into. But let's say, okay, I'm March. If I served it today, possibly, that's 29, 30, 31. Is there 31 days in March? If I served notice today, not tomorrow, but today, it would deem to be served by the 31st, which would then mean that we could go April, May, June. I could get possession of the property on July 1. I personally can't complete on a sale on July 1 because it's a holiday. So I personally would not complete on that property until July 2. Is July 2 a weekend? No, I would complete on that property on July 2nd, and I would likely arrange a walkthrough on the 1st or 2nd in order to make sure I verify before I paid my money that the tenant was indeed out, because I don't want that tenant to be my problem. And then I would take possession 3rd, 4th, or 5th or something like that. But yes, I would never, if I was a seller, I would never agree to, like, it would have to be a seller subject. I guess it could be a buyer and seller subject, but it would have to be a subject to the seller entering into a mutual agreement to terminate the tenancy. on or before whatever date. So that might be a cash for keys thing. It would be very tough, though. Honestly, if I was looking at properties, unless I knew the tenant was already out or leaving already, I probably wouldn't go after them unless I was an investor myself. So you think the Liberals are going to increase immigration? Not now, but yes, eventually. Their path has always been much higher immigration. If you look into, I said the conspiracy theory words. If you read about the Century Initiative, Mark Carney has added, actually one of the co-founders of the Century Initiative, to, I guess, his advisory panel. And it sounds like, if you don't know what the Century Initiative is, there's I guess, I don't know if you call it a group think tank, whatever you want to freaking call it, group of people, whatever it is. And they are interested in getting Canada up to 100 million people by the end of this century, in a hopes to become a world power through population. So in order to get there, I got to start cranking people in, because people aren't having babies here. Probably be a better idea to give better tax breaks to people here to have more kids. Have more kids. Kids are great, as long as they're not too crazy. But yeah, over time, at some point, people are going to crank up immigration again. I don't know why, but immigration around here has been crazy. Like, it's the first time. You always hear your parents, from generations back, and grandparents who were immigrants, and how there's different people coming in, the neighborhood changes. But like in my market now, the buses are packed with students that never were before. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you remember in the news, you would always hear the story about BC Transit or TransLink or whatever it's called, not having any funding, or that they're not making any money. And I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Why? Because the buses are packed. There's 15 or 20 people at every single bus stop. And that's not a Surrey, Langley thing. It was never a thing before. Now it very much is. How can buyers protect their interests in tenanted properties and shifting their risk to the sellers? Don't buy tenanted properties. Okay, so let's think about it. You want to buy a tenanted property. Technically, I think the way I recommend it is probably shifting the risk the best way you can. So you say, until I have a walkthrough that confirms the tenant is gone, I'm not actually going to complete on this sale. That's probably your best way. You may just have an automatic delayed closing. Now, that being said, tenants usually are always gone. The problem is actually, here's something you probably won't consider. Everyone thinks, oh, what if the tenant doesn't leave? That's usually not the problem. The problem is usually for the seller, where we've now negotiated, let's say this thing that I've talked about before, where we're not moving in now till July. When we serve notice to the tenant today to get in July, usually now the tenant, over the next portion of time, they have to pay for May, they have to pay for April, they get June free. But within 10 days notice, at any point in time between now and, whenever they're going to leave, they can vacate with 10 days notice and owe no more rent, and maybe even get a refund on the rent if it's paid in advance. So what they usually do is, I know the government wants you to think that tenants have a hard time finding a place. It's not the case. Definitely not the case right now. So what they want, what the tenant often does is, I've served the notice today, and in 12 days from now, they serve notice and they're gone. And then we, as the listing agent, go back to the buyer and say, okay, it's empty now. And the buyer goes, pay me to take it early. And we're like, no. So now we're losing on rent. And we're sitting there on a vacant property. So, how do you feel? More questions, please, guys. This is kind of fun. I like questions. They're better. It's a lazy afternoon. I'm supposed to be getting home soon, and I didn't realize the first half of this was crap because I had an echo. How do you feel about buying leased lands like SFU area in Burnaby? So maybe Felipe, you could let me know, is it Indigenous leased land, or is it city leased land, or is it company leased land? My general answer is don't touch it because you're not buying it, you're renting it. And good luck funding it. Almost impossible. If you're city leases in Vancouver, usually you can fund them okay. If you're like we have Sun Creek Estates here in Surrey, it's a private company. Good luck, can't lease it. Super affordable housing if you have a couple $100,000 put down, but you got to buy it outright basically. And so city land, not bad. Private company, probably would never touch it. Indigenous land, personally, I would never touch. And the reason for that is I've actually had family members in the past that had Indigenous leases, and they were redone after only 33 years when the lease is supposed to be 99 years. Real problem. Luckily, my family got out unscathed, but other people did not. So city lease, SFU, 50 to 100 year. I mean, maybe. I personally wouldn't touch it. I would never actually touch it. You just don't know. I want a fee simple title. That's all it is. But, on this topic, thank you, Felipe. I appreciate it. Is it down here? No, it's not down here right now. Tom Story Show this week, super special, in my estimation, episode. It's our first time with a very good discussion regarding reserve and Indigenous lands. And some problems there and some solutions there for housing and what's going on. I'm very proud of what we did this week. A great guest, probably one of our best guests of all time. Don't tell the other guests. But that's coming out this Sunday. So Tom Story Show, I'm pretty sure the link is down there somewhere. But we definitely have some very good. And by the way, if everything works out just right for the Tom Story Show, our episode that will be released the day before the election, you're going to want to tune into. Okay, where was I? So you have kids. I do have kids. Do you feel the Liberal immigration plan were to continue the Century Initiative? Will Canada not be the best place for you and your kids to grow up for opportunities? I don't know where the best place is anymore. I spoke to somebody this week who, they're here because Canada is the land of opportunity, or at least the second best one, and the States is harder to get into. So I do feel like Canada has something that a lot of countries don't, which is access to capital. And that holds a lot of people back. So I know a lot of people like to say, housing and loans, and we put us into too much debt. There are countries where you can never take on debt, and so you can never pull yourself out of poverty by using leverage and owning your home and, doing stuff like that, owning the title to your land. So I view Canada as an awesome place, but I am mindful that I'm setting my kids up for their future because it will definitely only get harder over time. Back to tenants. What if the tenant fails to move as agreed or damages the basement upon leaving? Damage would technically, I guess, likely fall on the part of the seller. Remedies for that is tough. Usually the tenants will leave the place. That's why I don't buy tenanted properties generally. They're going to leave it crappy. So if they fail to leave, it's a whole problem. That's why I like to complete after they're supposed to be already gone, because I'm not going to complete if they are not gone. Then you got to go through the tenancy branch, and it could be a long time, and it could be a lot of problems. So there's a big solution to this, guys. Big solution. Don't be a slumlord. Use a property screening process. Like I use, I think, Front Lobby. I used to use when it was around tenant score. Screen your tenants. I've had some crappy tenants, like they weren't 10 out of 10, but they were all 6.5 or 7s or above. I've had some late payments, but I mean, that was actually my mistake. I actually took somebody who was new to Canada and had no Canadian credit, and they were the ones that missed the rent. Every single other tenant I've ever had that's had over, the lowest credit score I think I've ever taken is, I want to say 760. But usually over 800, they always pay. People with 800 credit scores, I'm going to get in so much trouble for this. People with 800 credit scores or higher are clean people that pay their bills, and you want them as your tenants. So 42 people watching. Do I only have one click of the like button right now? There's no way that's possible. That's like Daryl level. Let me close this off here. Oh, I have comments here. I see what happened now and why I had an echo. I had 2 YouTube windows open. Awesome. I'm a moron. Okay. Guy is probably moving. Nope. At Guy. Igor is probably moving if things continue in the direction they are. Actually, that is funny. Igor, I'm not sure if you are Eastern European or Russian, but the people that I have had leaving the country for the most part have been Eastern European or Russian, and they're like, I've seen this thing before. I don't want to be here. So those are the people that are actually going to other places. It's easy to say, though, you're going to go to somebody else if you made all your money here. If you're actually from somewhere else, like if you're from Costa Rica, it's a lot harder to live in Costa Rica. So think about that. Do I talk with my hands too much? Let me know. 41 minutes in so far. Only 10 or 15 or 20 of that was wasted with an echo, apparently. If you had a niece in the Lower Mainland looking to buy right now with a budget of $750,000, well, I'm not sure why it would be a niece, but okay, I do have a niece. She's not looking to buy. $750,000, what and where would you tell her to buy? She wants to move in 3 years. If she wants to move in 3 years, I would tell her, don't buy. Don't ever own real estate for 3 years. Unless she wants to own it as an investment property in the future. So let's say, for instance, I did want to buy an investment property in the future. Where would I buy with $750 right now? I would likely try and get a 3-bedroom tandem townhouse, likely. But if I was a single person looking for a rental in the future, I may save a little money and go down to a 3-bedroom tandem townhouse. I would try and get maybe a 2-bedroom townhouse, tandem townhouse somewhere away from SkyTrain in Surrey, because I hate being near SkyTrain, and I think it's only going to get neighborhoods to be worse in the future. Can a buyer rent home immediately or wait 12 months after possession if mutual agreement between the seller and tenants has ended the tenancy? Mutual agreement, you can re-rent it if it's a mutual agreement. If you have served notice to say that you're moving into the property, you better be in there for 12 months or you're going to get smashed with 12 months rent penalty or whatever later on. Where am I here? Vote conservative. Yeah, everybody wants to vote conservative. I think. Does anybody believe liberals are actually ahead? Come on. I hear the Polyev rallies are jammed and people can't even get in. So we'll see. Hey, Steve, what's your opinion on half duplexes with legal suites in Cloverdale? Christopher, let me know if you are talking Cloverdale proper or Clayton Cloverdale, because those are two totally different things. What's my opinion on them as far as living in or as far as investing in? If I was an investor right now, I would, and I had a sizable capital, I would look at a coach home. If I was a young person that had access to, younger than me, if I was 10 years ago and I was looking at trying to get into a townhouse versus trying to get into a coach home, if I had the ability somehow to qualify for it, I would get into a coach home and I would rent out the basement and I would rent out the coach home and I would do very well for myself. The trouble with them is you don't know who your neighbor is going to be for the half duplex. If the other side's a half duplex and rent it out to somebody else, you don't know who their basement suite's going to be. Congestion's going to be crazy. There's a bunch of them along 60th. And yeah, there you go. West Cloverdale. That's my hood. Busy street, crappy parking. Generally speaking, I don't know. What's your other option, I guess, Christopher? If you're not going to buy that, you're probably looking at, I think is it Julia Reimer has a listing right there? I mean, I like the neighborhoods where I am. So it's a busy street. Larger 3-bedroom townhouse, you're probably going to save 100, 200 grand. If you had the basement suite and you want to live in it, I'd be tempted to go half duplex, personally. It is the busy street, though. Christopher, come hang out sometime. Move into the neighborhood. I'll get you in there. Go for coffee at what used to be the Wired Monk. Don't know if it's even open anymore. I mean, it's hard to say. If you'll live there, yes. I think you won't be there as long as you think you will. So you'll be it's a very narrow unit, right? So I think you might move on faster than you think. Is there any reason, is it just a cost of why you wouldn't move into Clayton and get a coach home with way more rental? It may be doable, but then you're in Clayton. It's not as nice. Can you go more into what these Eastern Europeans are saying? What exactly? Okay, I will tell you what I'll give you one that I think of all the time. I had a professional making very good money, many six figures. And he was from Ukraine. And this was at the height of maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it was, the height of the Justin Trudeau stuff. And he was like, I've seen this talk before. I've seen this rhetoric. And I don't like the way things are going. He was involved in medical. He said the medical system is broken. I'm taking my money and I'm leaving. So his fear is he has literally escaped communism. And he was worried that it was going back that way. So he's like, I'm out of here. And funny, that guy actually has 3 different homes spread out across the world, across 3 different continents. So he has an escape plan no matter where. $3 years won't even cover the selling fees. It depends. 3 years may cover the selling. So the difference is, like, if this is going back to what would you buy for over 3 years, you may. I mean, I also couldn't be a renter. I've never really been a renter. I rented off of my brother once, but generally speaking, never wanted to. So, yeah, be in it for 5 years. But you do have now open rentals in most places. So, I would be very tempted to maybe hold a rental. I think kids are crazy that want to save up for more. So here's something. So first time buyer, let's say somehow, and lots of kids do it, kids being 25 to 27-year-old, they've saved up, they got 25, 30, 50 grand down or whatever. Maybe their parents are helping them out. They can afford a $425,000 one bedroom somewhere. And they're like, I don't want to commit to that, or I don't want to do that, or I want to travel the world. Buy that thing. At 25 years old, buy that thing. Live in it for a year, get your tax exemptions, get all the things you're going to get, living it for 12 months, and then go travel the world after that and rent it out, become a landlord. Buy that thing. If you buy property at 25 and just pay the mortgage for the rest of your life, which is 25 years, which means it's paid off by 50. But if that's the one thing you do, you never move up, you never do anything, you never even live in it, you go and travel the world and backpack barefoot around I don't know, Machu Picchu or something, whatever you think you're going to do, just own that thing and you will crush it for the rest of your life. Parents, stop telling your freaking kids that they're never going to afford anything. It's just not going to be what you afforded. They will afford something and they'll get there. Plus, when you kick the bucket, they get all your equity. So, don't be a hypocrite. Is spring better for selling my detached home? Yes, if you list with me. In terms of prices compared to August through December, which months are worst for home sales? So you're talking about two different things here. Look at this. It actually came up. Here is the trend in overall sales for the last 5 years. Here is the trend. This is just like a abysmal detached home sales. This is detached, just so you know. Surrey is blue line, and then Langley and Abbotsford. So you're seeing that they're really, really low. Let's go out and let's just go right back to Fraser Valley. So number of sales is always going to be seasonal. You'll usually get these bigger peaks in the spring. There's March. This is all detached, though. Let's go both types of properties so you can see the whole market. There's March. There's June. There's May. So you get that big seasonal thing. There's more activity going on. But traditionally, prices kind of always, they might tail off a little, but traditionally they would always kind of go chug along. But watch what happens when I go to the HPI. The HPI shows us now that, see this? Maybe there was a little dip and maybe you get a little bit less in December or whatever. But look at this now. You've got, ever since this big spike in 22 and then the downfall, then you had another seasonal pricing and then another seasonal pricing. And it looks like we're going that way again. So if history is starting to repeat itself for the last 3 years, you're going to get seasonal pricing, which means you do actually want to sell in, March, April, May, June, and you don't want to sell. The times I wouldn't want to sell is August and December because those are the lowest amounts of activity. But the times I want to buy are August and December. So if you wait and sell, you're only selling, then sure, you want to try and time that kind of later in the spring, maybe. There's an argument for that. But if you're buying again, you're in at the same time. So does it really matter? Not really. What you don't want to do is, if you're getting back into the market, you don't want to try and time it and get into the market later. You don't want to, what are you going to do? Sell in June and then time it for December? Maybe you'll luck out. Or maybe we'll get emergency Trump rate cuts and EB will have all the power in the world to do whatever he wants and something goes crazy and prices spike. Who knows? I am getting a warning from YouTube that my resolution is no good. So who knows? Maybe you guys are seeing this. People are still typing, so that's good. I appreciate the conversation. Look at this. Christopher is in the chat like crazy. Come to the neighborhood. Do you got an agent? I'll sell you. Let's go. Let's go see it this weekend. I know the listing you're looking at. I think it may be got relisted today. I realize you're an expert. Realize you're an expert in the Lower Mainland, but do you see other promising markets outside of Vancouver proper? Squamish, Okanagan, Hope, Pemberton. What is it that you're looking for? Promising markets. I had my eyes opened, and this is how I look at real estate. I don't have a very forward thought, honestly. I don't have this big, this is going to be my big investment thesis and all this stuff that guys say. I went looking at properties over the last few weeks, and I just realized, I can't live there. I can't have kids on, an acre where the closest neighbor may or may not, the closest neighbor might be 8 houses away. How are my kids ever going to meet those kids? Right? So they're playing in the cul-de-sac now. But it's just I live to live in it. I don't live to invest in it. Do I see other areas? I don't. Kelowna, sure. Definitely Kelowna has blown up, and I think it's now sustainable as its own city rather than just a vacation spot. Squamish, if you're into that lifestyle, sure. If you got job up there, great. But I really don't know how, is there going to be a next big booming market? If I was saying there's going to be a booming market, like somewhere where you're like, okay, I can go live here and I'm going to get something and I think there's going to be growth. For me, it would probably be Campbell River. Let's go Nanaimo. Sneaky Pete. Campbell River all the way down to Nanaimo is probably where people want to live. But the drugs in Campbell River right now, oof, yikes. That's probably where I would say. Interior, meh. I'm a city boy. I'm not a city boy. I'm a suburb boy. What do coach home basement suites in Surrey normally go for? For your coach home example. Oh, go for meaning, okay, so what does a coach home? So there's different types of coach homes in Surrey. And mostly they look the same from the outside, but then there's a suite size difference, I guess. So 4 beds up, 1 bed, 2 beds down. Is it a 1 bed or a studio or in the garage or over top of the garage? They're going to go for anywhere in the 145 range to almost 17 if you get a really big, nice, beautiful one, 165. And then how many beds and baths and all that stuff. You're going to rent out a small one. It'll go for 20, let's say the main part of the house, $2,600 to $3,200 a month for the main part. Then you're getting let's call it a $1,500 to $1,800 basement suite. Then you're getting probably a $1,500 coach home. So they are moneymakers. They are good. Area, not exactly a big one for me, because they're all going to be in either Sullivan, which is not going to be a great spot, at least where the coach homes are, and then Clayton, which is very congested for me. So personally wouldn't live there, but maybe. What is your opinion on studio in Willoughby for an investment? I would never, unless I got a screaming deal on it, buy a studio apartment for an investment, because you will have worse tenants than if you buy a 1-bedroom, and it will be harder to sell in the future. I like to buy, my investment property is a 2-bedroom, beautiful, I think so, condo, backs onto a park. The only downside with it is it has 1 parking stall. It should have 2. But I mean, really, buy something that you would want to live in. That's it. Don't buy cheap, the cheapest thing you can get in a floor plan, of which there's another 1,000 of them. Willoughby, I don't think there's anybody living in Willoughby that's living a lot of studio lifestyle. So I would stay away from it. Personally, I buy a 1-bed or ideally a 2-bed. Looking for a long-term hold. I mean, you got to run the numbers, but it wouldn't be my preference. Buy something you're like, I shouldn't say this. I'm going to say this. Hopefully my wife's not watching an hour into this blabbering. If my wife ever leaves me, could I live here? That's the type of thing that I would buy. But in the words of Richard Robbins, if my wife ever leaves me, I'm going with her. So, townhouse complex looks good on 168 and 60th, Arbor Village. So this is my hood, man. If you don't have an agent, give me a call. I'll tell you everything about that entire neighborhood. Christopher, if you do have an agent, you hired the wrong one. I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you which ones are good. I used to live in a townhouse complex there. I have family members that lived in townhouse complexes there. I got family members that own condos there. I got many family members that own detached homes there. And I own my investment condo there. So give me a call, man. If you're, or woman, I'm not going to gender you with the name Christopher. But if you got an agent, call them. You think the max pain level of people that need to sell has been reached? Not a chance. I think there are still people that said I'm in no rush. Everybody says I'm in no rush. I've never met somebody that says I'm in a rush, sell it now. Not once ever. Everybody's in no rush. They also have the nicest house on the street. Every single person. There will be another push of desperate sellers. I wish they were more desperate, because I wish then we could get more deals together, but they are not. They're holding on, and that's where they are. You can get deals right now, but the YouTube commenters always say the deal's not good enough. It's got to go another 35% down from here. Get out of here. That's just not going to happen. I think we're going to lose viewers here like crazy. It's the end of the workday. People are finishing their coffee breaks and going home. So I'm going to try and wrap up because it's been a friggin' hour. Do you expect many detached homes for sale this year? Lots of completions when inventory peaked. Do I expect? Well, I think inventory, if you're asking inventory, it's going to be low sales. There's going to be a ton of inventory. There's 8,000 plus 8,400 listings on the market right now. It's a great time if you're a buyer, and that's why buyers won't buy, because they are expecting it to get even better. And that's where we sit in the stalemate. So, yeah, I don't know. Inventory will peak usually in August, or between June and September, usually in August. So I think we'll hit 10,000 listings this year, which we haven't seen since like 2012 or something. I guess I could check the stats, but I got to get out of here. What do you mean by studio lifestyle in Willoughby? What do I mean by studio lifestyle in Willoughby? I mean, the studio is a bedroom with a kitchen in it. Who wants to live like, I'm so much trouble again. I want a good tenant. I want a good tenant with a good job. And studio tenants are usually like a single guy that kind of has a futon, or a young lady who's out and about all the time, and she's got a day job, and maybe she's a personal trainer on the side. She's never home. She doesn't eat at home. She goes on lots of dates, hanging out with friends, Instagram influencer, whatever they're doing. They're getting out and about. So, I mean, like, I just don't. That's North Langley, right? It's not downtown. It's not even Wally where you have access to train. So maybe you will in the future. I don't know. I would prefer a professional or a single parent or somebody that like needs security. Your turnover will be crazy in studio apartments. Your turnover is, every year the lease turns over. Somebody gets a boyfriend, girlfriend, they move out. You got to deal with it again. You got to deal with people that have new credit or no credit or low credit, or they're trying to dump in 4 people into this basically bedroom. So personally, not my thing. Lots of people make lots of money on them. Not my thing. Thank God for Hong Kong money. Okay. Are buyers offering $100,000 below reasonably priced detached homes at BC assessment? Sellers are accepting. BC assessment means zero. Nothing. BC assessment means nothing. Zero. But a lot of offers, yeah, sure. 100 grand under on an overpriced property is fine. There's just a lot of overpriced properties. 100 grand over right now is not uncommon either, if it's underpriced or if it's priced well and it gets into multiple offers. So don't pay attention to the tax data. It means absolutely nothing to anybody except for maybe the seller. There is opportunity out there, but it doesn't matter because people are just going to keep holding off anyway. Like, I'm telling people, like, if you're going to buy, now is the time to buy. Brookfield, I think you mean Brookswood. Brookswood Langley, good for young families. Brookswood, I have a little bit of trouble with right now just because the development down there is not what Brookswood always was before. I don't know that you're getting the best quality builds. You're going to get a level of density down there that South Langley has never seen before. Is it great for families? Sure. When I was growing up, Brookswood was always where the bad kids were, like kids whose parents didn't care about them and they let them roam around the neighborhoods the whole time. Now a lot of those people are my friends, but is it okay? Yeah, it's great. What you have to deal with in Brookswood, it's very tall trees. My experience is a lot of people don't like very tall trees. What's the best site for MLS data? Work with your realtor. MLS data is, what data are you looking for exactly? When the stats come out, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board stats package is probably the best place to go. All these other sites, so Zealty, Zillow, anything that starts with a Z, REW, these are not data sites for you. These are lead capture websites. That's what they do. These are not, we're being nice to you. You are the commodity that is being traded on those websites. If you want to find listings, use realtor.ca. If you want to find data, subscribe to the channel, because this is the first time I've asked for that. So subscribe to the channel, click the like button. I'm going to get out of here. I got to go see my kids and family, try and be a good dad over in West Cloverdale, just so you know. And yeah, yeah, Brookswood kids, bad kids. And stop using those other sites. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. I'm sorry about the echo at the beginning. Probably get no views for that, but bye.